My name is Avra Robinson, and I'll be your facilitator today. And I am joined by Sherry. Let me do just a quick screen share, everybody. Kind of what I do is I share my screen and then also kind of pop out of it from time to time to get a little FaceTime with all of you, hoping to keep you engaged and let us have a conversation. So our contact information is here. Again, my name is Avra, and my email address is here. If you ever have any questions, I hope you'll reach out afterwards. And I'm joined today by Sherry and many of her other Digital Promise colleagues. Sherry, do you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sherry Lofton. I'm the instructional technology trainer here, and we are looking forward to this series, and we're so thankful that you are with us today.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks, Sherry. I appreciate everything that you're doing on the back end. So Sherry's going to kind of run the chat and answer questions, and I'm going to kind of guide us through this learning experience together. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we do, we're just going to talk a little bit about norms. You've probably seen these before. We do encourage you to keep your microphone muted when you're not talking, but there will be times when I'm going to ask people to share. So please feel free to unmute and verbally, chat with me. Also, I can see that the chat is going, so I'm thrilled. If you have questions, please feel free to put questions in the chat and we'll answer them there. We're happy that you're here. Do try to be present and mindful and be kind to yourself and others, of course. So we hope that this will be a really applicable and enjoyable hour for you. So we're going to begin today with a waterfall chat. Please don't answer this yet. Let me explain what a waterfall chat is in case you've never done one before. So the idea is that we all have an answer to this question, but we'd love for all the answers to come in at one time. That way your answer isn't kind of swayed by anyone else's, okay? So what do I want you to do? So I want you to think about the answer to the question that I'll give you in just a second here. And then you're going to type your answer in the chat, but don't hit send or don't hit enter or return on your keyboard until I kind of count us down and we all do it at one time. So the idea of the waterfall is that all of those messages come in at one time. So our question is, why do you believe that voice and choice is important for student learning? So let's take about 30 seconds right now. Think about that. Feel free to type an answer in the chat. And then when I say go, it'll be time to hit enter and all those answers will come in at one time. All right. Give it everybody about 10 more seconds or so to kind of type in why you think voice and choice is important for student learning. And then I'll do a little 3, 2, 1, and we'll count down and hit enter. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Go ahead and put your answers in. Oh, I do love a waterfall chat, so much fun. So I'm going to kind of scroll back up and take a peek at all of your answers and maybe just kind of read a couple aloud. Students need to feel as if they are part of the lesson to invest. Totally agree. Students being heard, so important. Engagement, ownership of the learning, empowers learners to be able to share what they've mastered, increases student engagement, absolutely. Taking just a quick look, student buy-in and ownership, developing good leaders, absolutely, Amy, thank you, that's awesome. Freedom to own their learning, keeping kids engaged, absolutely. So these are awesome answers, you guys. Thank you so much for your participation. And Judith ended with make student confidence. So I think confidence is so important. And yeah, absolutely. All of your answers are exactly aligned with kind of what we're going to chat about today. So let's just talk a little bit about kind of how this hour is going to go. We're going to start out with just a little bit of, how do you already kind of allow for student voice and choice in your classroom? And I'm going to actually take my screen share down in just a second and get a couple people to share. And then what we're going to do, guys, is we're just going to kind of quickly go through a little bit of the research and talk about why it's important and talk about, what is a teacher doing when we're looking at voice and choice in the classroom? What is the role of the teacher? And then, of course, what is the role of the student? And how are we going to kind of work together with our students to be able to increase voice and choice in our classroom? And then we're going to show you some neat, a neat tool called a Learner Variability Navigator and give you some time to explore it. And then the meat of this session is actually going to be an opportunity for you to kind of take a look at a learning experience or a lesson that you have and do some redesign, maybe looking for ways to infuse that idea of voice and choice in your classroom. So let me just stop my screen share for just a second, come back and look at all of you. Does anyone want to unmute and share? What is a way that you already are giving opportunities for voice and choice in your classroom? Is there anybody that would like to unmute and just let someone else's voice be heard, literally?
I actually received a private message from someone. I guess they wanted to remain anonymous, but they shared that, let me make sure I'm reading it right. They shared that they allow students to give them feedback on assignments and asking them how would they like the next lessons to be delivered.
Awesome. Thank you, Courtney. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So you guys, this is, yeah, there's all different ways to be able to do that. And that's kind of where we're going to start and what we're going to look at. So, you know, we're looking for ways to increase student engagement, obviously, always. And voice and choice is really a way to do that, because when we're giving students voice and choice, you know, we're zeroing in on their interests and we're allowing them to have some control over their learning experience and their learning environment. So think about yourselves and the feeling of control. It's a good feeling. It lessens our anxiety and it increases our engagement. So, you know, when we're looking at allowing students the opportunity to be part of the planning process, it gets them engaged, it gets them invested in the work that they're going to be doing, and it makes them feel that sense of ownership. So these are just a couple of slides, guys. You can go back and you can definitely dive into the research. They're cited and you can read more by clicking on the citations. But, you know, we're just trying to offer these to you as just kind of a way to give you that background knowledge that we're all kind of aware of. This is really the meat of it from my perspective. When we're looking at voice and choice, we need opportunities for students to be able to make choices about how they take in information. So thinking about, hey, maybe they're going to read something, maybe they're going to watch a video, maybe they're going to listen to a podcast, or even just have something read to them, right? How are they going to take in information? How will they explore it? Will they work with a partner? Will they work independently? Giving them voices and choices around that. And then also thinking about how they're going to demonstrate their understanding. So we know the students that do a beautiful job of demonstrating their understanding in writing, right? They can write a killer essay, great paragraphs, all of that. But we also know our students who struggle, who have fantastic ideas and really a firm grasp of the content. But as soon as you put a pencil in her hand or a keyboard under his fingers, all of a sudden there's a barrier, right? So then we need to look for ways to allow them to express themselves, allow them to demonstrate their understanding of content and do it in all different ways. And so by allowing voice and choice in that way, we really get a better sense of what they know and what they're thinking and what they're feeling. So what's the point of all of this? Well, we want kids to be co-creators. We want them to feel that ownership, like you guys said in the chat. It's so important for them to feel that, because with that comes some autonomy, which then will lead to student agency and their ability to work independently, which is ultimately our goal. So when we think about this, you know, we have to think about what the teacher's doing, and then we have to think about what the kids are doing. And I think a lot of it is a gradual release of control. And it's a difficult thing for teachers sometimes. It's, you know, it's easier to sometimes stay in control and feel like you are guiding the process, but by allowing them to accept some of that responsibility, you know, we're allowing them to practice, and we need to allow them to do that. So offering them things like path and place and pace. So saying to them, you know, you can do this now or you can do it later. You can learn in this way, you can learn in that way. You can take in information in a variety of ways, looking at, hey, you could work independently right now, or you could work in a group. There's all different ways that we can offer voice and choice to students. And I think what is really important is that we just kind of keep a pulse on what's happening by utilizing those formative assessment strategies that we know are so important. So I will tell you that when I've done this with students in the past, I've made the mistake of not having enough check-ins and, you know, giving them too much autonomy at first. And, you know, that kind of came back to be a problem for me. And so I've learned that, you know, needing to just check in with them daily, weekly, making sure that you've got a pulse on what they're learning, what they're thinking, what they're understanding, and then where their gaps are in knowledge. So let me stop for a second before I move on and just see, does anyone have a question or anything in the chat? Sherry, should I check in with anyone or anything like that?
Jeannie just made a good point about feedback and how it's so important about students needing that positive feedback. So I think I agree 100%. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And, feedback from us as educators, but then also feedback from their peers and giving them that opportunity. Feedback is something when students are working and they're giving each other constructive criticism, it can be something that takes practice to accept well, right? And to learn from, to internalize, and to keep working and learning together. And so it's something that needs to be practiced, I think, also. So when we think about, what should our students be doing? Well, we want them to figure out who they are as learners, right? So, making choices about how they want to take in information. Do they learn better by reading? Do they learn better by watching a video or listening to it? You guys, I'll tell you, I figured out as a freshman in college that I learn well by reading out loud to myself. When I'm reading nonfiction, I need to hear it and see it. And I always think, man, if I'd figured that out when I was 11 or 12, I would have done a lot better in middle school and high school. So helping them figure out who they are as a learner, reflecting on their strengths, reflecting on their abilities, and also reflecting on their challenges, kind of getting them metacognitive a little bit and get them thinking about their thinking and thinking about their learning. This is kind of what we want them doing in order for them to be able to figure out what's going to be their best path as they become independent learners. So, that's just a little bit about the teacher role and the student role. So what I want to show you now, you guys, is this really amazing Digital Promise resource that is completely free and completely available to you. It's called the Learner Variability Navigator. So when we're thinking about learner variability, we know that there is so much learner variability in our classrooms. Kids learn, take in information in all different ways. And so what this program, this amazing website allows us to do is identify the learning that we need to have happen. So the math or the reading and all of that. And I'll show you this in just a second. And then we'll look at some factors and strategies. So it's a neat way for you guys to be able to just get some more strategies beyond the ones that we're even mentioning here. So this is the Learner Variability Navigator. And what you can do is scroll on down to the bottom and you'll see there's a kind of a 3-step process here. To begin with, you're going to choose a model. So your area of interest, right? So whether you're teaching language or whether you're teaching math, whatever it is that you're teaching. And you'll start by identifying that. And then we're going to look at factors and strategies. So let me just actually show you what we mean here. Okay. Let's pretend that I am a 7th grade math teacher. Okay. So I'm going to click right here where it says grade 7 through 9 under math. Okay. And then look, I've got 7 through 9 factors and I've got strategies. So if I click on explore factors, what you'll see is this amazing chart. And when you kind of rest your mouse on these different sections, the ones that kind of go together light up, all right? And you can take a look, you can click on any one of them, and you're gonna find oodles and oodles of information. So what we wanna do is give you a chance to explore this a little bit right now. Let me show you the strategies. So we were in factors, now let me hop over to strategies. And you guys, in strategies, look at all of this. There's a ton of ideas and strategies for you to explore, and everything expands. So if we're say today, we're looking for things about voice, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a Command F, or if you're on a Windows computer or a Chromebook, a Control F, and I'm just going to type in choice. Okay. And then look, it takes me right in here to student choice. So what I can do now is click on it, and it's going to take me to a whole page about student choice and all of these amazing strategies, including sometimes more resources for you to look at, videos for you to watch, tons and tons of information. So like I said, what we want right now is for you to have a little time to be able to kind of dive in and, pick the area of your interest and what you teach, what your learning environment looks like, and explore these factors and these strategies. Does anyone have a question about kind of what how to navigate this or what to do right now.
So basically, I just want to do a repeat back. We'll be taking a look at this resource and exploring it. And that's what we'll be spending our time doing right now. Is that right?
Thank you, Sherry. That was perfect.
Okay.
That's awesome. So
We put the link in the chat for everyone.
Yeah, so if you want to head to the chat, okay, and we are here. We're going to just give you, some time right now, about 10 minutes or so to jump in and take a look. And feel free to any aha moments that you're having, feel free to type them into the chat, and we're here, and we'll look forward to kind of hearing from you. That's smooth jazz. Thanks so much, Sherry. All right, everybody, wasn't that an amazing tool? Who would like to share an aha moment, something that you discovered that you're really excited about right now? We had some great chats, people that were kind of explaining something that made sense to them in the chat, but who would like to talk out loud? I know there's somebody brave enough to do this.
So I love the embedded videos that were in there and the one that I was watching, because you're talking about using a strategy, and it's one thing to sit and get the information, but then if my teachers, especially my new teachers, like, I don't know what that looks like in my classroom, you always go with that. What does it look like, feel like, sound like in a classroom? And those videos give you an opportunity to see what it looks like, sounds like, and feels like in a classroom. So I was very appreciative of that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing your voice. And yeah, I completely agree with you. That's one of the things that makes so much sense to me too. I completely agree. Awesome. All right, listen, you guys, what we want to do now is give you an opportunity to think through some lesson redesign or learning experience redesign. So if you are a coach, this would be something you could do with your teachers. But if you are a classroom teacher, then we hope that you'll take in your mind something that you're already doing and look for ways that we can infuse voice and choice into the experience. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to share my screen again, and let's take a look at kind of what we're doing here. All right, so as you think about this, identify a lesson or a learning experience in your mind and think about, what your learning outcomes are. So thinking about the process, not just the product, right? So what are they going to be doing? What are kids going to be doing? And we're going to be looking for ways for, opportunities for flexibility. How can we allow students more voice or choice over this or that, right? So maybe they do need to read something, but you're going to allow them to demonstrate their understanding by writing or speaking, that kind of thing. So thinking about that, thinking about your standards and your curriculum, of course, but also what does success look like? What do you want kids to be able to do? And how do you want them to be able to demonstrate their mastery and to feel that success? And what are ways that we can help kids feel that sense of success so that they do start to figure out who they are as learners and what makes them tick, what makes them feel successful versus, maybe what's challenging for them. And so we know that there are so many, diverse interests and so much variability in our classroom, but utilizing some of those strategies and things that we found in the learner variability Navigator, using that, and then also kind of what you've done in the past, we're going to allow you to just have some time to think about it and talk with others if you'd like to, looking for ways that we can give kids, that decision-making power. So what tools are we going to use? What resources are we going to utilize? Are we going to have kids working together? Are we going to have them working independently? Are we going to have them using digital tools? Are they going to work with analog tools and then, talk about their experience using a digital tool? So speaking of digital tools, these are just kind of a variety of options for you. We wanted to make sure to reach everyone. So, we've got stuff that's Microsoft, we've got stuff that's Google. Thinking about, if you want students to be able to talk about what they know and not just write about it, could you do something like Flipgrid? That allows students to literally use their voice, but they can also draw and tell and create videos. that demonstrate their understanding, or maybe doing something like developing a website, utilizing Microsoft Sway or Google Sites, or, of course, presentations, utilizing any of the programs like PowerPoint or Slides or Keynote, thinking about all of that for student creation, putting kids in the driver's seat, right? Allowing them to be the ones to be creators and demonstrate their understanding and their knowledge in a variety of ways. But then what's your job along the way? What's our job as teachers? We need to be checking in with them. So then looking kind of at the bottom 3 boxes here as check-in tools, right? So maybe utilizing Microsoft Forms or Google Forms to do a quick, quiz, survey, just quick check-in, an exit ticket or an entrance ticket. Thinking about maybe utilizing discussion boards or like the question feature in Google Classroom or in any of the whatever LMS you might use in your school, or maybe utilizing a tool that allows you to intersperse questions into a video like Edpuzzle or like that functionality in Nearpod. So you guys, these are not, things that you have to do, but these are all just possibilities for you. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, my favorite tool isn't on there, completely okay, right? You need to pick the tools that are going to make sense for your learning environment, for your students, because you know them the best. So these are just some ideas for you, okay, to be thinking about. And then, additional considerations, those lesson look fors, right? So are you hearing students explaining what and how they're learning in their own words? Are they able to articulate, what's important to them? Are they able to, participate together and work and make connections with their peers and make choices about their learning? So these would be some additional things to think about as you are kind of redesigning a lesson, okay? So what we're gonna do is at this point, put you into breakout rooms. Now, the purpose of the breakout room is for you to have the option to be able to talk with others, right? I love to verbally process. I love to talk with other people and listen to them explain their ideas. If you are not a verbal processor, if you would prefer to work alone, then when we open up breakout rooms, totally okay. Just don't join, right? You don't have to click in and join them. But what we're going to do is give you a chunk of time right now to think through some of these ideas, to use that learner variability navigator, as well as kind of your own background knowledge, and then maybe a new idea that you got, that was sparked in you today to do this. So let's just take a quick look and yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share for just a second, and I'm going to open it up and ask, would anyone like to ask a question right now? Typing something in the chat or verbally. I've gotten really good at that, like awkward Zoom wait time, guys. So I'm just giving it another second here to see if anybody's going to ask me a question. But listen, here's the thing. We're going to be here. All right. So whether you head into a breakout room or whether you kind of relax, turn off your camera and just sit back and think through some of these ideas, we're going to be here. You can always pop in and ask us questions. Okay. We want to just give you a chunk of time to really get hands-on with some of these ideas. All right. Sherry, do we have the breakout rooms ready for folks?
Yes, we are ready. All right.
So keeping in mind, just one last time, if you don't want to go into a breakout room, totally okay. All right, it just popped up for me. I'm going to say not now and not head into a breakout room, but I'll be here. Feel free to come and talk to us. All right, I see people are joining breakout rooms right now.
I like breakouts. It's a great time to just share and learn from others and get ideas and gain ideas.
I agree. I really agree. I love it too. I love talking with other people. I think that, the educators in us, we tend to be pretty social.
Yeah, I like to ask a whole bunch of questions. Like,
all right, welcome back. Welcome back. We'd love to hear what some of the conversations were that you were having when you were kind of thinking about this lesson redesign. So do we have a volunteer to share? Otherwise, I will go ahead and just call on folks.
you know what? You can call on the first person that smiles.
All right, let's see. I think I need glasses. I'm trying to see everybody's faces here. All right, Elizabeth, were you able to get into a room and talk with anybody? No, you weren't. All righty. What about you, Kelly? Were you able to get into a room and have a conversation with folks?
Yep.
Would you like to share anything that you guys talked about?
Yeah, I mean, I think we both, I can speak about myself. I think we both found the tool kit really useful. For me, I'm looking for more actual resources. So like case studies, for example, like I'm looking for a bank of resources of actual case studies that I can bring into the classroom. I think the tool is like an amazing like first step, but I was just looking for that like second layer of like, okay, now where should I go for case studies? I teach IB bio. I also teach 9th grade Massachusetts bio. Like, where's a good like resource bank of some of these tools that you guys offered?
Sure.
Can I follow up, Kelly, with the tool, the learner variability tool? It is subject and device agnostic. So you'll be able to pull those strategies and look at the strategies per se based on variability. And that still will possibly give you that case study feel. So you look at the needs of the students and then you can select these strategies based on those variabilities of the learners in lieu of just a traditional case study. So it gives you that opportunity. Thanks for sharing that feedback too. I'll share with the team as well.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. Let's see. I need another person to share. I'll give it just a second and then I'll just go ahead and call on someone. I am going to call on someone that doesn't necessarily have their camera on this time, just because I don't want to pick on the folks that do have their cameras on.
I'll speak. Hi, everyone. How everyone doing? My name is Jeannie Herbert. I guess you can see. I work with Special Needs 101. And, we have our workshops and stuff, and we be in the classroom, even though it was virtual learning. Some of the special need kids that's not using their hands, and they love to learn. They really do. But I found out, I started from the older kids, and now I'm with the little kids. So I'm seeing that the self-esteem need to be put out there for some of the kids to really say that they want to learn. You might have like one special needs child in a wheelchair in one classroom. And for me being in the school system so many years, I found out that some kids might learn better if some kids are with other students in a wheelchair, also with regular kids. So that one student in a wheelchair, he still want to see other people like him.
Yeah,
absolutely. And he can learn knowing that other people can learn like him. And that's what some of the school don't have it, where some kids see other kids like them. Am I saying it right, Dr. Courtney? Thank you. Yes, and that's what I'm seeing. And as a para, I can't do but so much, just assist the kid. My voice is not being heard, from my experience with the children. So that's what I think need to be in consideration, like mirrors. They like to talk on microphones because they're not using their hand. They like to hear themselves learn. They can say their ABCs, and while they saying their ABCs, they can hear the microphone. They're happy about it. And I have seen that through the years. That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Awesome. All right. Does anybody else have a thought they'd like to share? Something that you talked about in your group?
I just want to add to Jeannie's comment. I used to teach students with disabilities, and I think that's one of the more powerful things about voice and choice is that when you normalize having students express their learning and choose their learning pathway through different pathways, it really normalizes the fact that everyone in your classroom is doing something different. And so students aren't singled out, and it really does give students the opportunity to really showcase their learning in new and different ways, because sometimes a lot of our traditional methods that we use don't really support all of our students and equally. So voice and choice is a really great way to start really allowing students to explore the best ways that they can express that they have mastered content, because doing it on just a standard test is not always the best way for them to express that. So from experience, it's a very, very powerful strategy.
Thank you so much, Rita. Absolutely. And I can see Jeannie's clapping for you too. So that's perfect. All right. Well, we've had 3 people go ahead and share, and that's awesome. So you guys, I think, when we think about all of this, and we appreciate so much your feedback and your thoughts as you're kind of considering this. When you think about weaving in voice and choice, I think the thing that you want to keep in mind is that there's so many ways to do it. And so you don't have to just, look for the podcast to go with the reading, right? Like, we know that sometimes kids learn better when they're having something read to them or they're watching a video. But if that's not possible, then look for other ways that you can offer voice and choice. It may be about timing. It may be about seating in the classroom, right? It may be about where they're at. So pace and place and path, all different ways that we can offer students that, that voice and choice. So it's kind of endless, and it's really up to your creativity. So we appreciate so much you sharing all of that with us. Should we, Courtney, can you tell me and guide me a little bit? Should we be looking at surveys and reflections and things like that right now?
At this moment, we do want to get more insight from everyone. We want you all to share with us what you used to think, but now you think. So you're going to share that slide. We're going to finish this phrase out, and we want to invite you all. We want to invite you all to share what you used to think, but now I think, in regards to the conversation we had today. And I'm going to put on my school teacher hat, and I'm going to pass the mic to, let's see, Sandra Childs. I'm passing the mic to you. I want to know what you used to think about learner variability, but what do you think now? So you'll just literally say, I used to think this, but now I think why. You got it. You can do it, Sandra. I have faith in you.
I used to think I had to really look for something to find to help my students communicate. But now I can find things that you all have given me that I can use that I know will help my students communicate.
All right, Sandra. So now I'm not going to pass the baton or the mic to anyone else. Sandra, you pick someone. This is a strategy you can use in your classroom. So Sandra, pick on someone and call them out to do the same thing you just did, sharing. You said D Hall.
D Hall.
D Hall, are you there?
But now I think, D Hall out there?
Let's see, D Hall isn't there. Let's look for someone. Oh, D Hall said they had to step away. So would you repeat the directions for D Hall again, Sandra? We have time.
I used to think, but now I think. With what you have learned. I used to think, but now I think. Okay, let's go with John, if D Hall isn't there. John Amundsen. John, are you on here?
All right, so John may have stepped away. It's all right. So thank you for, go ahead.
I can share. I'll share. I used to, and if this is based off of today's, what we learned today, I used to think students were not able to handle having their own voice or choice. But now I think with the help of all of the trainings we've received from VILS and the learning of variability tool, I now have strategies to allow my students to try to use their own creative ways and give them student voice and choice. And I say that because when you deal with students in your past where behavior took over, you tend to not trust the next group of kids coming in. And one thing I've learned, you cannot take your past years with students into your next year. And so I had to learn to release and still give each group of kids the opportunity to have student voice and choice. And this this tool now is powerful because we have multiple means of resources in this bank, a bank of resources that we can use to help teachers or ourselves find those different tools that may fit your demographic.
I love it. Isn't that the truth? I think what you said about, not allowing a previous group of students or your previous experiences to kind of color yourself moving forward is so important. And I think it's also just going back to that gradual release, right? It's hard at first to trust that our kids are going to be successful because we're here for their success. We as teachers want them to be successful. So it's hard to kind of go from, being that person that's completely in control of the learning to just being that guide, right? So thank you so much for sharing that. That was awesome. Fantastic. All right. Do we have time for one more? What time are we at here? We probably have time for one more person to share. I used to think, but now I think.
I'll share. Hello, everyone. I used to think that student voice had to be heard, but now I think student voice can be seen.
Great. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you mean?
I felt that was coming. So, I mean, as far as being heard, it's like, if you're not hearing voices or if they're not participating with a hand raised and answering a question, the thought is instantly, okay, I'm not getting engagement or my students are not participating or their voices are not being heard. But now that that voice can just be something as simple as like maybe a timekeeper in a group project or a recorder, in a sharing session or whatever it may be. It doesn't necessarily have to be hearing their voice or even just note taking, right? It shows engagement in the lesson and it lets you know that they're like retaining what's being taught.
Yeah, absolutely. I always look at ways for students to be able to create. And by create, it doesn't have to be some elaborate project. It could be just that note taking, right? Or sketching something, just in some ways that they're engaged. I heard a quote once and I cannot figure out who said it, but it's the person, something along the lines of the person doing the talking is doing the learning. So think about that. When we as teachers go home exhausted because we've talked all day, we need to think about that. We need to think about putting our kids in the role of talking and verbally processing and thinking through ideas. Because when you're talking and explaining something to someone else or looking for feedback, verbal feedback from another person, you are internalizing information and really learning. So that was awesome. Thank you so much.
I had a friend, I was on a webinar last week and one of my friends shared, she said, you can't teach smartphone kids with landline strategies. And she said it twice. And I was like, what do you mean? She said, you can't teach smartphone kids with landline strategies. That means we have to be diverse in our thinking and offer different means and modes of connection and voice. Yeah. Because if you think about your smartphone, you have multiple apps. I can talk on FaceTime. I could talk on WhatsApp, Duo. I have multiple means of communicating.
Okay, Dr. Courtney, I'm going to quote you since I don't know your friend.
Her name is Ladera. Don't quote. That's not mine. Her name is Ladera. Ladera Lee. But
I love that.
I love it too. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, you guys. We really appreciate your active participation in this today and staying engaged and having these conversations with us. I think this is just the first of many of these sessions. So what I want to do now is invite you to do a survey. And Sherry, I'm going to let you guide me here. Are we good to let everyone do it or do we need to stagger it?
Nope, we're good to let everyone click on it.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to put a link and it looks like, we're going to put a link in the chat for you for a survey and ask you to give us some feedback so that way we can continue to make these as applicable and engaging for you as possible. And then also, I just want to make sure that everybody knows about the upcoming workshops. So we'll talk about that in a second. Let's make sure that everyone can click on that jot form that Sherry just dropped in the chat. Go ahead and try to click on the link. And if you have trouble at all, let us know.
All right, awesome.
Looks good. All right. So just to let you know, there are many more of these webinars coming up, and they will have a similar kind of look and feel to them. Everything from engaging students through powerful questioning, learning to connect, designing for collaboration. You can see the whole list here. They're going to be on Tuesdays throughout the summer, and we hope that you'll join us because I think it's a really awesome opportunity for educators to kind of come together in a relaxed setting and just share ideas with one another. So thank you so much for being here with us today. All of the workshops will begin at 1:00 p.m. Eastern time. So you've got the list here, and thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, but otherwise you're welcome. I see the chats coming in with the thank yous. You are absolutely welcome.